currently gradually coming out of the COVID pandemic, and every country is putting together some form of recovery plans to take things to sort of as close as possible to normal, what we had before the pandemic. So on this slide, you see that in 2021, Canada welcomed a record number of permanent residents, more than 405,000 individuals. Well, that's 2021. Immigration, we all know, accounts for almost 100% of Canada's labor force growth and nearly 80% of our population here in Canada. Canada regained many of the jobs lost during the pandemic, and that is correct. But there remain 960,000 unfilled positions across all sectors. So you can see that is a huge number there that is still left to be filled. By 2030, the goal actually is to achieve, the goal is that, or the projection is that 5 million Canadians would be retired, and the worker to retiree ratio will drop down to only about 3 to 1 ratio. So you can see that we would have more people retiring by 2030, which is approximately 8 years now. This is a clear sign that we have a strong economic need for increased immigration. I think you will agree with me on that. Now they've put up both a short-term and a long-term goal. The short-term goal would be between 2022 and 2024, which I think really comes handy here. The 2022 to 2024 immigration level plan aims to welcome 431,645 permanent residents in 2022. And I believe we only have about 10 months to the end of 2022. In 2023, we would welcome 477,055 people. And in 2024, 451,000. Now, I'm not trying to bore you with all this figure, but I'm just trying to lay a foundation here to really establish the fact that Canada needs people to come and help out. They need foreign professionals to come as immigrants to Canada to handle all these jobs. In 2024, overall admission will amount to 1.14% of Canadian population, with nearly 60% of admissions in the economic class. Again, we're going to break these things down, and then you will see how these different programs come to help the government of Canada achieve their goal. Working to increase Francophone, so those that speak French, the government is also looking to do some things in that regard. Spreading the benefits of immigration to communities all across Canada. Now, if you look at the right side of the screen, you would see that the government of Canada went further to break down all these huge figures that we saw on the left part of the screen. I'm not really going to go deeply into these figures, but while I speak, if you want to take like a quick peep into these figures and maybe also look at the reference URL at the bottom there, which would be where I got all this information from. And that would be the website of the government of Canada. If you also want to maybe take a picture or copy that in some way, you can spend some more time to look at that. But essentially, the screen to your right sort of breaks down all the figures that we talked about on the left. Now, I would go further to analyze each of these programs. So we have like the economic category, the family category, the refugees and protected persons category, the humanitarian and others. That also forms a category there. We're going to go through each of these categories and see what their requirements are and how people can jump in and take advantage of these categories to immigrate to Canada. Now, the express entry. Express entry, almost everybody knows the express entry. What is the express entry? It is an online application system for skilled workers. It is used to manage the 3 federal economic immigration programs in Canada. So we have 3 federal programs in Canada. They are the Canadian Experience Class, Federal Skilled Worker Program, Federal Skilled Trade Program. And I'm just going to quickly run through the three of them and tell you what the requirements are, just to see if you qualify for them and how you can take advantage of them. And then we can proceed to other options that are available for people that want to immigrate to Canada. The Canadian Experience class, the big thing here is you need 1 year of skilled work experience in Canada. So if you don't have a 1 year experience in Canada, then you would not qualify for this program. There are many other requirements, but that's like the big ticket item there. You would require language ability, CLB 7 for NOC skill level 0A, 0 or A, and CLB 5 for NOC skill level B. Again, there are a lot of abbreviations here. I'm assuming we all are familiar. Some of them I'm going to define them, like NOC is the National Occupation Classification. So Canada sort of, instead of saying civil engineer, accountant, or the different job roles, they assign a 4-digit code to these job roles, and we'll see them eventually. We'll also talk about the skill level. So each of these job roles will have different skill levels, which we'll talk about. The training required, the education credential required to fill those roles. There's a federal skilled worker program. Again, I'm going to spend a minute here because I think a large percentage of the audience here would be looking at immigrating to Canada. They're not already within Canada. Now, this program has minimum requirements for skilled work experience. So you need a minimum of 1 year continuous paid, that's 15-20 hours. And it will be for skill level A, skill level 0A or B. And if I think I prepared a slide that I would run through that would explain what these skill levels are. Language ability, you need a minimum of CLB 7, and that would be scoring essentially 6 on the IELTS on each of the 4 bands, the writing, reading, listening, and speaking. Now, for education, you need to have at least a high school or what we call secondary school in Nigeria. Now there's a federal skilled worker. The federal skilled worker program continues. You would actually be assessed in 6 areas: age, education, work experience, arranged work in Canada with a valid job offer, English proficiency in one of the languages. We know that Canada is a bilingual state, so we speak either English or French here in Canada as our official languages. Also, you need to show some form of of adaptability when you come to Canada. Now, there's a 100-point grid system that's used to check eligibility for this program, and you only need to score 67 out of the 100. And these points will come from the 6 different factors or areas that you would be assessed. Federal skilled trade is the third, but not the least, program in the express entry system. This one is for people that are in the skilled trade sector, like what we call the technicians, electricians, mechanics, carpenters, and all of that. So this program is adapted for those set of persons, and it also has a minimum requirement. So for skilled work experience, you need like 2 years full-time work experience in the skilled trade within the last 5 years, and skill level B. And the major skill trades that are included in this program would be Group 72, Group 73, Group 82, Group 92, Group 632, and Group 633. I believe you can see all these groups on my slide. You would also be required to meet job requirements for that skill trade as set out in the National Occupation Classification, except for needing a certificate for qualification. Again, we can talk more about these programs during the Q&A session. You would need to have a job offer of a full-time employment or a total period of at least 1 year work experience. Now, you need a certificate of qualification in that skill trade issued by Canadian provincial or territorial or federal authority. You can see that the language requirement is watered down a little here. We see CLB5 for speaking and listening and CLB4 for reading and writing. So there's a lot of watering down here. For education, there's no minimum requirement to come under this program. Now, in the Express Entry system, there is what we call the comprehensive ranking system, which everybody or almost everybody knows about, the CRS score. Now, based on these factors, each individual that comes into the pool is assigned a score, and periodically the government of Canada does draws to invite people to apply for permanent residence in Canada. So once your score meets the minimum score that of the people that are inviting in a particular score, a particular draw, you'll be invited to apply for permanent residence. I did say I was going to put a slide that explains NOC skill levels. So I'm not going to waste too much time here. There's lots of information. This basically tells you the nature of education or training that's required to meet a skill level in a particular NOC code. So you can see, for example, skill level A, you would require a university degree at the bachelor's level, master's level, or a doctorate level. And you can see the requirements for the other levels, B, C, and D. Because of time, I would move along, but if you want to take a quick peek of the slide, you can take a picture, and then we can make some progress. Now, all we've talked about is where we've considered the Express Entry system. Now, I know that a lot of people would say, oh, maybe I don't need a requirement for the Express Entry system. Are there other programs that are available for me? The answer is a big yes. And that's why I have also put together alternatives to the Express Entry system. And that's what we will be looking at in the subsequent slides. So these are programs outside the Express Entry system. We have provincial nominee programs. Okay, one thing I would like to say here is that most provinces in Canada, they've keyed into the Express Entry system. They go into the system there to select people that they're interested in, and they issue them what we call notification of interest. So sometimes when you create an Express Entry profile, even though you don't receive an invitation to apply from the federal government of Canada, a province might go into the same Express Entry system and issue you what we call a notification of interest, and then they can get you to apply for their provincial nominee program, and they would eventually issue you a provincial nominee certificate, which will then speed up or accelerate your invitation to apply, and then get you to apply to Canada for permanent residence. However, there are some provinces that have programs outside the Express Entry as well. And one of them would be Saskatchewan. So Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program is SIMP. There's the Newfoundland Priority Skills. Again, we can talk more about all these in our Q&A session. There's the Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program. Now, there's something I like to mention to people each time I talk about the Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program. It is the modern immigration. Note, the way the modern is spelled is different from the regular modern. So it is a little settlement. It is spelled M-O-R-D-E-N, modern. And they actually look out for people that can fill specific skills that is required in that little settlement. And once they're interested in you, they can facilitate your provincial nominee application and also your permanent resident application to Canada. Beyond that, we have entrepreneurs and self-employed persons. We have investors. We have startup business class, home childcare provider pilot, and home support worker pilots, immigrant investor venture capital class. We have the Atlantic immigration programs. Now, because of time, we're not able to look further into all of these that we've listed, but the ones that I highlighted on this list, we would spend like a minute or two to quickly talk about them and throw more lights on these programs. And then when we get, again, obviously, when we get to the Q&A session, if anybody has a question on any of the programs that we have here, we can talk a bit more about them. So we have beyond the Atlantic immigration programs, we have rural and northern immigration pilot program. We'll be talking about that. We have the Agri Food Immigration Pilot Program. We have temporary foreign worker programs. We have lots of temporary foreign worker programs in Canada. And finally, the last thing we'll be talking about today would be the study route to Canada. A lot of persons have also asked about options available to them after they study in Canada. Would it just be when you finish studying, you pack your load and go back to Canada? We'll take a look on that. So the first thing we want to talk about today would be temporary foreign worker programs. Now, under the temporary foreign worker programs, there are different categories. One is the labor market impact assessment-based work permits. So essentially what is required is you would have to secure a job offer from a Canadian employer. Now, there is a little hurdle that most employers would have to go through to employ you, and that is embodied in what we call the labor market impact assessment. What is LMI, labor market impact assessment? It is, simply put in simple words, the Canadian employer has to demonstrate that they have tried to recruit a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident in Canada, and they have not been able to see someone that has the required skill, training, and experience to fill that role. And that is why they are looking outside Canada to fill the role. So again, that comes right clearly that they would have to show this demonstration that the skill that they're trying to hire you for, they're not able to get that in Canada. Now, there are many other programs that are LMIA exempt, and we are going to look at all of that. And we are going to look at some of them eventually. So once you have a letter of employment from a Canadian employer, the next question we really want to ask is, what route do we have? Will the employer want to take you through to apply to your work permit? Would it be an LMIA-based work permit or LMI exempt work permit? Again, all of this will be on the
hello,
side.
Wisdom.
Yes.
Wisdom, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Please, there's someone scribbling on the screen. Can you please stop scribbling? Wisdom, when you go to the top of your the top of the screen, you
Yes.
should be able to see where you can clean that off and disable people from scribbling. Please, let's not scribble on the screen. It's distracting from what the immigration consultant is talking about. Thank you, Wisdom.
Okay, I'm just trying to, I haven't really done this before. So I see my annotation here.
Yes, so disable annotation.
Okay.
And can you see anywhere to clean everything off?
Yeah, I think I see erase here.
Yes, erase.
Or clear. Should I clear?
Clear all.
Clear all drawings. Okay. Okay, I think I have that done now.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I don't see any disabled annotation though. Do I? Is it okay now?
It's okay now. Let's just proceed. Please, let's not scribble while our guest is making his presentation. Sorry for that, Wisdom. Thank you.
No worries at all. I'm sorry for the break as well. So we'll just make some progress here. So once you have a job offer from the Canadian employer, you would want to know what kind of work permit you'll be applying for. Again, whether you are getting the labor market impact assessment done is not on the side of the employee, it is on the side of the employer. So the employer would usually tidy up all the LMI and do all the other background work for you to apply for the work permit. Now there's a post-graduation work permit, which is usually what people get when they finish studying in Canada. We're going to talk about that, so I'll just keep that for now. There's the intra-company transfers work permit. So for example, you have a company in Nigeria or anywhere outside Canada, and then you have a branch of that same company in Canada. When you want to apply for a work permit, what you would apply for would be an intra-company transfer work permit, and that will sort of water down most of the requirements that you would need to apply for your work permit. So I will just make a quick, good. Okay, so let's make some progress here. Now I'll look at education. I have put up the map of Canada just to like make everybody conversant with the different provinces and territories in Canada. Canada has 10 provinces and 3 territories. And you can see all across Canada, we have free education for children below 18 years of age. So if you're coming to Canada to study and you have children, you can come along with them and they will study for free while they're in Canada. Now, another good thing about studying in Canada is Canada has a high quality education for, Canada provides a high quality education for citizens, permanent residents, and even foreign nationals. They will all attend the same class, the same level of quality in terms of education in Canada. And also Canada, the government of Canada spends more per capita on education than any other country in the world. And I guess this is how they're able to put together the quality, the level of quality that they have achieved for their education here in Canada. I will quickly run us through a step-by-step guide if you want to apply for a study permit and if you want to come to Canada to study. First of all, you need to understand the requirements. You need to choose your course and institution. You need to take a language proficiency test if it is required. Some schools will waive this for you if English is your first language, and if you have studied for a long time, using English as the language of study. Once you have gone past step 3, you need to apply to the universities. You need to secure admission into any of the universities of your choice. And then once you have that admission, you'll need to apply for a study permit. Once you apply for a study permit, all things being equal, you get your study permit, it's time to travel. Yay! You need to pack your things together and prepare to travel and come to Canada. Now, once you come to Canada, that's not the end of the story. You have to come to study. And I must warn you, studying in Canada is very, very demanding. So you need to plan ahead how you're going to study and how you're going to meet the demands and the challenges with studying here in Canada. Finally, life after study. People often ask, would you just leave Canada? If when you're done with your studies, are there options available for you once you're done with your studies? The answer is yes, there are options available after your studies. So the next slide we're looking at will be immigration options after your study. You can see clearly here we have post-graduation work permit program, which obviously once you've studied in Canada between 8 months to at least 2 years, you would be eligible to apply for a post-graduation work permit. Any study that is less than 8 months will make you not eligible. Any study between 8 months and under 2 years, you are eligible, and the length or the validity of your permit would be the same as the length of your study. So for example, if I come for a training of 9 months, I would have a post-graduation work permit that is valid for 9 months. If I study for 12 months, the permit will be valid for 12 months. However, if I study for up to 2 years or more, the study permit would be valid for 3 years. So once you study for 2 years, you then have 3 years validity on your study, on your post-graduation work permit. Now, there are other programs, Federal Skilled Worker Program, which we have talked about, Federal Skilled Trade Program we've talked about, and Canadian Experience Class. So these 3 will be under the express entry that we talked about. But remember, once you've studied in Canada, you then gain more points because under education in Canada, you would score additional points there. Now, we have Quebec Skilled Worker Program if you have studied in Quebec or you want to immigrate to Quebec, Quebec Experience Class. Now, a lot of people get a little confused because is Quebec not in Canada? Is it not a province in Canada? Yes, although Quebec is a province in Canada, they have decided to run their own programs, just as the case with many other provinces in Canada. So if you are planning to immigrate to Quebec, you would not You cannot do that under the federal skilled programs or the federal, the Canadian Experience class. You will have to apply to Quebec directly. Now we have provincial nominee programs. We talked about that before. Federal self-employed program, immigrant investor venture capital. These are some of the things we've listed on the list before now. I'm just going to make some progress here and look at some other programs that we want to talk about today. Now, another very good program, I think this is the second to the last program we'll be looking at today, Atlantic Immigration Programs. We have 3 of these programs, 3 programs that are under the Atlantic Immigration Program. Initially, this program, the government tested it for 3 years or thereabout, and now the government of Canada has seen that the program is very viable, and they decided to make this program permanent. That's why you no longer see Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program. The pilot has now been taken away. It's now Atlantic Immigration Programs. And we do have 3 programs under this. The Atlantic International Graduate Program, means you would have studied here in Canada to qualify for that. The Atlantic High Skilled Program and the Atlantic Intermediate Skilled Worker Program. For the interest of time, I'm just going to quickly go through the requirements of the 3. I'm not going to read the slide, but you can read through and see the requirements for these 3 programs. Again, feel free if you want to take a photo of the slide so that you can take your time to read through these slides. Or you can always Google these programs and you'll see these requirements. This is for the Atlantic High Skilled Program. And these are the requirements. One good thing that I would like to highlight here is that 12.5% of LICO. I mean, this is a fantastic way of watering down the proof of fund requirement, because a lot of people complain about how they're able to save up money for proof of funds and all of that. But under this program, your proof of fund, or what you need to show your to demonstrate financial capacity, is only 12.5% of LICO. And I'm going to show you a table of the LICO. LICO obviously is a function of your family size. So I'm going to show you a table of the LICO. It's 12.5% across board. So it's not as high as what you would show as proof of fund for the regular skilled worker program on the express entry. Now, I did mention that I was going to show you a table for LICO. So this is LICO, and I've done like a comparison how LICO has grown over the last 5 years, including this year. So you can see from 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022. And it is a function of your family size. This is for a 12-month LICO. So if you're, for example, you have a family of 3, that would include the parents. So a family of 3 would mean a father, a mother, and a child. And in 2022, your LICO would be $42,224, and you only need to demonstrate 12.5. I would leave you to do the math. 12.5 is really lower than what the regular express entry would require for proof of fund. Now, the last program we're going to be talking about today would be Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot. This is community driven. So communities within Canada are saying, okay, we're just going to go beyond the province to say, we want to attract the kind of people we want. So these communities came together to say, okay, once we see labor shortages in our community, we would, try to drive these people and bring them into our communities. So another good thing with this program is it sort of spreads the benefits of economic immigration to smaller communities, even though everybody would want to go to the bigger communities. But like people in Canada would agree, when you come to Canada, you would eventually see that it's not really about the big city. Again, not everybody would live in smaller cities. At the same time, not everybody would live in the bigger cities here in Canada. And this creates a path to permanent residence for skilled foreign workers who want to work and live in one of the participating communities. And I'm going to share a slide that shows the participating communities now. So if you want to take a quick picture, in the interest of time, we will move along to the next slide, which talks about IRCC requirements. Now, IRCC requirements. Now, if you go, the previous slide showed the different communities, and I believe there were links there that showed that helped you to go into the different communities and see the requirements of these communities. But beyond the requirements of these communities, IRCC, which is like the federal government of Canada, also has its own requirements. So you would require 1 year of continuous work experience in the last 3 years. You'd have graduated from a publicly funded post-secondary institution in the recommending community, or you have language requirements as shown on the screen, and every other requirement that you can see on the screen. So this is where I would like to stop and ask if anybody here has questions. I believe Oge or I believe Oge would have how she would want us to handle the question and answer session. But I'd like to thank everyone for taking our time to attend this session. I'd like to first and foremost thank Career Aid Hub for having me here, and for everyone that has tuned in from the various parts of the world that you have connected from. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer questions. I'm just gonna put a slide here just in case we're not able to answer your questions today. The slide that you're looking at has our contact information. You're able to reach us on WhatsApp, or by phone call, email address, website, and you can also follow us on our social media handles. And I think, Oge, you had mentioned that you would share this information on the chat box as well.
Yeah, this is not Oge, this is Harry speaking, but sorry. Thank you, Wisdom. Your website has been shared, the Facebook page, the Instagram page, the Twitter page, the YouTube page, everything has been shared, even the LinkedIn page. So please go to the chat box. We have all the details from DOE Immigration that is managed by Wisdom, and I'm sure he'll be very willing to answer your questions. Now, we have a few questions that I will just quickly read out. Can you give us DOE information, contact information? All that is has been given to you, is displayed on the screen and also in the chat. I'm sure I've even done far more than you want. Can we have your cell phone contact? I can answer that question. That would be.
Yeah, that is also displayed on the screen right now.
Oh, good.
It is +1 902 802 0512.
Great. So you have that now. I want to ask if you can assist from A to Z for immigration. That's okay. From Ayodeji.
Okay, thanks, Ayodeji, for asking that question. Yeah, and we are licensed to represent our clients here in Canada to the government of Canada. So yes, to that question, we can handle your immigration file from start to finish.
Yeah, so from cradle to retirement. So Wisdom is there for you to immigration. For immigration through study in Canada, at what point can one apply for permanent residence? That's for those that are studying in Canada or want to immigrate through study in Canada.
Okay, absolutely. Once you get into Canada, I did mention the different steps before you come into Canada. You have to secure an admission in a designated learning institution, or what we call a DLI, here in Canada. Now, one very important thing that I'd have to say here is you have to be careful when you apply to schools. You need to ensure that those schools are designated learning institutions in Canada, and that they offer the post-graduation work permit as an option after their study. Because I've had clients that jumped into admissions, they came into Canada, finished studying, and then they want to apply for post-graduation work permit, and the school is not able to sponsor them on that, and then now they're now like in a fix. Now, why is it important for you to get a post-graduation work permit? That is sort of a window or a bridge that allows you to prepare to apply for another permanent resident route without any stringent requirement, because all the routes have stringent requirements, like you need job offer, you need to go through the different criteria that the different programs would have, and eligibility requirements and all of that. But for your post-graduation post-graduation work permit, the only requirement really is that you have finished studying in a school that can sponsor you on that work permit. So you really don't have any additional strings tied. And now, once you're able to get on that work permit, it gives you that breathing space, gives you that breather for you to now say, okay, what route do I want to do now? And it would also give you the opportunity to meet certain requirements, like the Canadian experience class requires you to have worked in Canada for 1 year. So if you have a post-graduation work permit that is valid for, let's say, 1 year or 2 years, then you can work in Canada and tick that box that I have gotten my 1 year Canadian experience. I can now apply for Canadian experience class, which appears to be easier than the FSW, because it gives you more points. You have now been in Canada, you have studied, you have now acquired 1 year work experience in Canada. So to answer your question, you can apply for permanent residence as soon as you finish studying. However, you need to meet the requirements of the program you're applying for. Meeting the requirements might mean you would have to maybe fall back on your post-graduation work permit so that you can either gather work experience or try to get an employer or to do some other things to meet the requirements for your application as a permanent resident to Canada.
Thank you so much, Wisdom, for that. We have far more questions than I think we have time to handle. So Wisdom, I'll just say, maybe if you can just give very, so we can accommodate as much questions, maybe briefer answers. Can you enlighten us more about transition of visitor visa to work permit that is scheduled to end in February 28th now? I don't know what that means, but we have the expert in the house.
Okay, yes. So the government of Canada from time to time brings out what we call temporary public policies. Now, there are certain requirements that are enshrined in the acts or the law here in Canada. But when there are some situation happens, the government of Canada issues what we call the temporary public policy to kind of, suspend temporarily some requirements of the law. So normally, if you come into Canada as a temporary resident, either as a visitor and you want to change status, you would be required to leave Canada and then apply for the new status that you're looking for outside Canada before coming into Canada. So there is a temporary public policy that is currently in force. It started way back in 2020, I believe, August, but due to the COVID pandemic and the different strains, the government of Canada has continued to extend the end date of that policy, and the last extension was to end, or rather is to end on February 28th. So if you are within Canada on or before February 28th, and you have a valid job offer, you are free to apply for a work permit from inside Canada, and you will not be required to leave Canada before you apply for a work permit.
Okay, Wisdom, thank you for that. That's new information to some of us. Unfortunately, it's ending in some weeks. Hi, after getting a job offer, how do I get my family to accompany me on a work permit?
Okay, thanks. So just one sentence to end the previous question, follow up to something you just said. So it is scheduled to end on the 28th of February. Remember, the federal government has the right, or if they want, they can extend it further. Like I told you, started way back 2020. So they kept extending and extending. So on or before February 28th, we would hear from the federal government if they are going to extend that date or if they're going to end it in February, on February 28th. Now, getting your family member to accompany you on a work permit. Once you have a job offer, you can either have your spouse and the children apply with you on what we call the spousal open work permit. So usually once you have a job offer, you would be required to apply for a restricted work permit. Your work permit will be restricted to your employer that is bringing you to Canada. But at the same time, your spouse can apply for what we call the spousal open work permit, which allows them to work for any employer in Canada. Your children above 4 years can also apply for study permit for them to study in Canada. And all these applications can be done together with you as you're applying for your work permit.
Okay, thank you, Wisdom, for that. I'm going to skim through the questions, and the reason is because we don't have so much time. Someone is asking, how much is the proof of fund for a family of 5? You can check that online. I just want to try and focus on how does the Rural Northern Immigration Pilot Program run, and how does the immigration via entrepreneurship route run?
Okay, so I'll quickly answer that, although I've talked about that before now.
Yes,
but
yes.
The Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot Program is really community driven. So selected communities that are interested in attracting people to their community, they come out to, like, tell people, if you want to settle in our community, we'll be able to sponsor you, and they give you all the criteria or eligibility requirements, which I shared earlier. And if you also want to just go online and Google it, you see all the requirements, including IRCC requirements. For entrepreneur, there are different routes you can come into Canada as an entrepreneur. One of them, which I'll talk about now, and I'll encourage you to also Google and search the other, would be provinces have streams that they call entrepreneur streams. So it's like a provincial nominee program, but it is for entrepreneurs. So they have requirements for your self-worth, how much you want to invest in the province, in a business in the province, language requirements, and all of that, which you can, for time's sake, I may not be able to go into all those details, but you can Google that up and you'd see all the requirements. But basically, once the province is happy with you, they issue you a nomination certificate. I think most provinces would break this into 2 steps. First of all, they would help you apply for a work permit for you to come into Canada, establish your business, and then run your business for about 1 year. After 1 year, if they see that your business is really doing well, they will then issue you a provincial nominee certificate, which will then help you apply for permanent residence, and then you can eventually become a permanent resident here in Canada.
Yeah, thank you, Wisdom. Quickly, because we're supposed to end in the next 5 minutes. So what is your view on the current state of immigration to Canada through express entry? What is that they will not be doing draws as much as they were pre-pandemic due to the backlogs?
Absolutely. This is a fantastic question. And I was expecting it to be like the very first question that someone would ask here today. But that is a very good point that has been raised. If you have followed the trend, you would have noticed that the last Outlander FSW draws would have been December 2020, which is well over a year now. There were initial speculations that in 2022 they will resume, but that didn't quite happen. And we saw internal memos that that was written, and chances, and how chances are that in the nearest future we might not be seeing draws coming out for Outlander applicants. So yes, that's a valid question. What I would say, again, that is beyond me. I don't make the decision on what stream the government of Canada would want to encourage. But I think what I am seeing, and if you're also following the trend, you would have seen that if government of Canada is looking internally, first of all, they're saying, okay, instead of us getting more people to come to Canada, what about those people that are already in Canada and they're not permanent residents? Can't we create some pathways of some sort for them to become permanent resident? So that's what the government of Canada has focused on in the last 1 year. They did what we call the TR to PR, and they took quite a lot of persons. And they also extended the window, like I just explained now, for the temporary public policy for people that are visiting Canada, and for them to transit to maybe a work permit status and eventually to other form of permanent status. So they try to, exhaust all the internal options that they have. What I usually suggest to clients is, if you have other options that are available or that you are eligible for, instead of just waiting in the pool, you might as well just explore these options. If you have the funding and you want to come to study in Canada, you can pay your fees, you can do that. Or you want to start looking at provinces. Many provinces are still issuing out provincial nominee certificates, and they're still doing draws for PNPs up until today. So if you are a PNP, you can still be called to apply for permanent residence. So because I really don't have control of what the government of Canada would be interested in doing per time, I would rather advise that if you look at the ones that are still ongoing and you meet those criteria, why don't you just apply for that and try to come to Canada through those streams?
Okay, great. There's one question here. Can someone that has BSc in accounting in Nigeria be allowed to study nursing in Canada?
Okay, very good question. First of all, I'd like to disabuse our minds on certain beliefs that people have held. And I've heard this over and again, that if you want to come to Canada, you have to study exactly what you have studied previously in Nigeria or in other countries wherever you were before decided to come to Canada. Yes, that has its merits. I mean, if I were an accountant in Nigeria and I want to come and do a master's in accounting or something related to what I have practiced in Nigeria, it's very logical. I mean, you don't need to speak too much to that. Everybody would say, okay, you're trying to, progress your career and all of that. But that doesn't mean that an accountant in Nigeria cannot come over to Canada and study nursing. Now, what do you have to then show? You have to demonstrate that, one, there is a clear plan how that study would jive and connect with your short-term and long-term goals. So an accountant in Nigeria is coming to study nursing in Canada. And their plan is when they finish studying nursing in Canada, they're going to go back to Nigeria and continue working as an accountant. You agree with me that that would not make any sense. But if someone says, okay, my ultimate goal is to work in the health sector, although I have been working as an accountant, but that's not my drive, and I would like to come back to where I really would find fulfillment in life and all of that. And one way to slide back into that industry would be having a degree in nursing. That's beginning to make some sense. And a visa officer can look at that and then look at your case, consider your situation, and then make a decision. There's a document that we call statement of purpose. If you're applying for a study permit, that statement of purpose is a very, very important document. It is in that statement of purpose that you would explain to the visa officer what your plans are and how this degree that you're coming to get in Canada would help your short-term and long-term goals.
Awesome. So I think we are going to be calling it rounding up for today. Please, I did share all the social media handles for Do Immigration. Please, you can send your questions there. But just to be fair, I think I am going to allow just one verbal question. I'm sharing the links again from Olubenga. Can you unmute yourself and ask your questions? You've had your hands raised for so long. I don't know, it must be painful, but please ask your question.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Absolutely. Thank you for your patience.
All right, thank you so much, and very nice session. The question I want to ask is, for the express option, is there an age limit in terms of, is there an age that does not kind of give you the option of getting the points? So I just want to know if there's an age limit for the express option. So that's the question.
Thank you.
Okay.
Wisdom.
Yes. So when we say age limit, I would like to explain how the program and the process works, so that is there age limit? The answer is no. There is no age limit. But when you are older, does that impact your score? The answer is yes. Remember, we talked about 6 factors that would contribute to your CRS score. Age is one of them. So the older you get, the less you score in terms of age. But many people that max out or zero out their age contribution, they are able to do some other things to get those points that they've lost based on age. So I mean, someone going to, for example, study French and take the French exam, even though they're losing points on age, they are getting points from French language skill, and that can also help them also meet up on the express entry. But I believe when you get to age 46, you stop getting points for age. But we have seen people that are older than 46 that still come on those federal programs. It's just the ability to either secure a provincial nominee program or do a French test, or just vary the other factors to make up for the lost points as a result of your age.
Beautiful. And that's just a segue to the concluding part, just to say we have a consultant that can help you do immigration. Wisdom is representing them. And, if you have questions, trying to figure out the best route to immigrate to Canada, is it student, is it through entrepreneurship, or is it the express entry? And, every person or every family is peculiar. So we all have our peculiarities. So, but with Do Immigration, they're able to carve out a path and a plan for you. And if you stick to the plan and the path and being hopeful and doing the right thing, I'm sure you'll be able to get your dreams achieved, hopefully in this year. So thank you, Do Immigration. Thank you, Wisdom, for time to explain all this to us. Thank you for everyone that attended. We'll try and make this video available. We're actually streaming on YouTube live now, but we'll also make the complete sessions available, and also try to put a time to them, so you know exactly what time Wisdom was asking a particular question. That will help you to drill down further. Wisdom, do you have any last statements before we call it a day for today?
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to appreciate you once again for having me in this session, and I'd like to thank everyone that has connected from the various parts of the world. I know that time is really valuable for everyone. For those of us that have further questions, that we have not been able to answer today, I still have my information displayed on the screen. I believe we also have that on the chat box. Feel free to connect with us across our social media handles. We're on Twitter, we're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. And also, we have events from time to time, and we'll upload videos. We have very useful videos on our YouTube channel. If you also want to go there and see some of all these things that we've talked about, I've addressed them in detail. And if you're happy with the videos, you want to, follow us on YouTube, click on the subscribe button and the notification bell so that when we upload new videos, you'll be the first to know that we have new videos uploaded. Thank you very much for your time and all the valuable questions. And I am more than happy to come again anytime you need me to talk about any other topic. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. People are saying well done. Please, could you just type something for Mr. Wisdom, if you like it, just in one word. What did you get? Someone said, well done, Mr. Wisdom, great delivery. Thank you. And comments are coming in. And I just want to say thank you. Very great delivery. And I hope that people get in touch with you soon so that some of their dreams, awesome information, thank you, will come to pass. Oge, any last words before we end the stream?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Wisdom. Like I also learned a lot today. Thank you, everyone, for staying tuned and being very engaging with your questions. Harry, there's really nothing to say. You and Wisdom, you said it all. Thank you, Wisdom. Thanks.
Thanks, Oge.
Everybody, thank you. Follow Career Aid of Franoft Consulting. And we have a lot of events planned out. Next week, we are going to continue our free business analysis class. Please join and just subscribe to the channel so you start getting notifications on when our events happen. Thank you so much and have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.